Is your music ready?
Shush. 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 Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another glorious Bunchcast. Today we'll be talking about some interesting little factoids. Yes, of course. The most interesting of all is why is this so goddamn zoomed in? Jesus Louises. That's kind of insane.
You did this.
The
You
most,
start music.
the most interesting factoid of all is gotta be the fact that when it comes to the games industry, we've seen a lot of weird stuff happen, right? But nothing quite as weird as Nintendo threatening its own consumer base. I think that we've entered a different stage of weirdness here. So, Nintendo basically said that if you modify your system, they have the capability to detect that somehow, and then they can just brick your stuff. They're
Are
just
you
gonna,
meant to be covering your screen?
yeah, it's really stay on topic. Jesus
I'm
Christ.
making sure that you're not. Whatever.
So, how do you feel about that subject?
I mean, where to begin? It's like on top of the legal questions of what do you own? No, literally, this is a question that the games industry has been trying to push it. You don't own things, but at this point, it's going to come to the breaking point where the courts are going to have to come. What do you own? Do you own that instance of a game, for example? Is it really a license? As they've been trying to kind of push for many decades now, or is it you own that instance of the game? You just can't resell it, but you can modify that to your heart's content. You just can't distribute it. Or, now it's getting even worse with the Nintendo Switch consoles, that is not gonna fly outside of Japan. Hell, most of Asia probably isn't gonna buy this. And Japan is with their stricken population, they can't sustain Nintendo, so if they're gonna piss off this super majority of their customer base in US and Europe and potentially risk litigation, I'm not so sure Nintendo may go into another one of their dark ages where, if you look at their stock price, it's just gonna crater.
I'm not so sure about people not buying the fucking Switch 2. Because everywhere I've looked, there's been fucking Redditors like seething over like how much they want to fucking buy the Switch 2. And they don't care about the fucking price.
Yeah, that's
So,
the real thing. We're ever to find
I
out.
think they're.
It is
the
a real
fanboys
question.
are a little bit stronger. Well, not stronger.
Well,
but
the big
weaker.
thing, the big question I think that
suggest.
remains to be asked is, there's obviously the diehard supporters of Microsoft, the diehard supporters of Sony, the diehard supporters of Nintendo, right? How big is that vocal audience? That remains to be seen.
Yeah, fanboys have historically, outside of sports games, but that's an entirely separate market segment outside of gaming. But if you're looking at dedicated gamers, that will say Mass by Helldivers 2 or stuff like that, Nintendo's is actually quite small, and those that have been around as long as Kibbs and I, and even all the way back to the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System days, know that ever since the PlayStation 1 era, Nintendo for the longest time has actually been kind of sidelined. They had a brief moment of printing money, and I do mean brief, with the Wii, but that had very low retention rates. Hence their stock price fell. And in the Wii U, they became almost not talked about except for a few handful of games. It's like the Nintendo fanboys, it's not gonna bring Nintendo into big player sphere. Nintendo for the longest time has just been a niche segment of gaming. They've only become mainstream, for example, or expanded into other market segments of gaming with the Switch, due to a system where, for a time, or mostly in its first few years, it was very easy to port, despite not being based on the x86 architecture that most modern systems use. It had a novel concept of being on the toilet and being able to play Mario Kart. I know that's a meme, but it displays the point. And on top of that, Nintendo was upping its game in many exclusive areas with Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, and a lot of other games, and bringing a lot of the good Wii U games over that many people refused to buy due to the Wii U, sucking. And now, it's a real question, and there's going to be a good market test case looking at the data in the next few months. how many of those Switch players are gonna hold on, because there's one thing that those of us that have been around, never underestimate leadership's ability to mess things up, and never underestimate a good thing turning into the polar opposite, a negative downturn, by snapping your fingers together. Nintendo could very well screw up here, and a lot of their leadership for the longest time, it's like ever since they lost that, they got the new president, and then they lost Reggie Fils-Aimé. The president I'm talking about before the current one is Tatsumi, who used to be a banker, by the way, for 27 years. Which goes you to show that, not all leadership has to be just being gaming. This is going to be a wait and watch thing, because I'm not so sure how many of the Switch players are going to move on to. Because on top of the games lineup not being as impressive, I mean, yeah, we only have Breath of the Wild and Switch 1, but that was a system seller, and they had content lined up, and they were clear about it. In another month, you had another big game, and then another big game, and you had all the indies and AA and AAAs porting over. I'm not seeing that kind of content lineup as effective with the Switch 2. I mean, hell, if you're going to do a system upgrade, if you're going to do, say, just a minor upgrade from, say, Breath of the Wild, you're paying a lot of money.
Okay.
What used to be a very cheap upgrade. But yeah,
So
I think I summed it up.
the big thing here is that regardless of everything, right? Nintendo is more so not just pushing $80 games, but basically trying to brick your system if you modify it. The legality of that is questionable at best. I'm not a legal expert, of course, so this is not any legal bullshit here. But from what I know, Nintendo has tried to get away with many things before in the past, and have always resoundingly basically gotten their ass kicked in U.S. court because we actually have actual laws. Versus in Japan is more a corporate dystopia where it's literally just controlled by the corporates. And the fact that the corporation Nintendo is viewed as the cultural export, that is actually not a blessing. That's not a badge of honor. That's a bad sign. That means that they recognize them so much as the cultural influencing factor that they give them exemption over any sort of actual rational laws. And we see this happen all the time with people who mod their games, in Japan being the first victims of this abuse is what it is, where they're imprisoned for, God forbid, modifying a game. That's just rancid. That's unacceptable, and that's honestly worse. That's the worst business practice I think I've seen, period. I like the legality of that is horrific. It's borderline on the badness of like China with like, you know, blocking you for hours. So you can face prison time for modifying your game files. And not only prison time, but now they have the power to brick your system if they so much as suspect you as modifying your thing. The legality of this is questionable at best. And it's like you buy a product and then they can just brick it. No, I don't think that's going to hold up in U.S. courts. I'm not entirely sure, but that just sounds incredibly unethical.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I like to own my stuff. Part of the reason I like this whole system is like I like to own my stuff and do things with my stuff. It's like this is my. You're really messing with people's hard-earned time and money, and if you're gonna make my time and money in my entertainment just a chore and a hassle and hamper that much, it's like there's so many core principle problems. It's like is that not my Switch? And since when do you act like you own my time and labor to this extent? It's like the gall. Is that the right word? The gall of Nintendo. And if you actually bring up the Nintendo stock price real quick, just to really display, because this is just my theory of why they think. I posted in the latest one. This is from Yahoo Finance. Stream room. This is just my theory of if you look at that really big from 2015 onward. 2018 was when the Switch launched, and it's been just a steady upward ever since. This is just kind of my theory that, and Nintendo Switch sold 150 million. Nintendo probably thinks, and the current leadership thinks, that they could probably get away with whatever they want because this is probably their theory. They think they have a huge fanboy base locked in, and that they can start squeezing those profit margins up. And see if they can squeeze the wallets more and more. Not just with the raising of the Switch 2 price to unreasonable levels for what you get, but just when you look at the quality and the expensiveness of many of the Switch 2 upgrades, it's like, this is rancid. And the fact of the legality of the situation, because this also brings one other problem that we've seen for a long time. The archiving of content. Because I remember certain YouTubers and people had to archive, for example, the entire Wii U library by spending a disgusting amount of money and getting that into the cloud to make sure they preserve it. Nintendo is trying to destroy that with not just being able to break your Nintendo Switch, but in the end user license agreements, they're saying they could just cut this off at any time to their heart's content.
Yep.
It's like this.
Now, when it comes to most EULAs, I will point out that most EULAs, if you read them, or excuse me, terms of service, aren't legal. And that goes for 90% of games. Or not 90%, but like a high percentage. Because these things aren't actually legally binding. They can literally put, like, you're a slave in the EULA, and, like, that's not legally binding because slavery is illegal.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, they put a lot of this corporate jargon in here, but sometimes, if you actually can fight them, so you even have the money to fight them, right? They're banking on the fact that nobody can. That's what they're banking on. But this is the case where I can actually see a class action lawsuit becoming an actual prevalent thing when enough victims actually are accrued. And that's what they are, victims. Because, God forbid, you bought a thing and modified it, right? It's almost as bad. Actually, no, it's just as bad as John Deere in the farming industry. The farming industry has this problem, and this isn't a unique issue to just the gaming sphere either. This exists in other parts of the industry, or industries globally. John Deere, for example, if you modify any of their farm equipment or anything like that, you literally get deep shit. You're not allowed to touch anything. Same goes for like genetic crops and stuff. Like there's all sorts of laws and stuff like that where these things get very dystopian. And you can definitely see why people always and are upset about this. And there's a good reason to be upset here. This isn't a win for you. This isn't a win for Nintendo. This isn't even a win for anyone. What this is just blatant corporate greed that's now manifested itself to the point where they want to do whatever they can to restrict how you can modify systems and do things or tweak things so that you have to play it a certain way, right? It's like Mac versus PC. If anybody remembers that, right? Mac, you can buy a Mac computer and it's basically like, okay, they're standardized. It's like, streamlined PCs is what they really are. They're all standardized to the point where you can't really customize them. But what made PC and Microsoft strong to begin with? Well, PC stands for personalized computer. The ability to personalize and tailor your system to your specifications made it unique. There's a lot of corporations that want this intended goal of trying to streamline and standardize things to the point where it's all just factory printed like it's some sort of communist dystopia. Like where it's just like everybody has their, 2x2 room with their one bed and their one little fridge, if they have a fridge,
You go up to vending machine and you drink from same cup as everybody else.
Oh, yes, I heard about that. That's quite rancid. Yes. You go to vending machine and you drink from same cup that everyone else do, of all villagers. It's like, okay, that's fucking disgusting.
Don't worry, we wash cup. Yes,
yeah. It's not quite how bacteria works.
It's not the big sticker for all this commie talk.
You can't just wash away the bacteria.
I will now drink the bleach.
This can probably and will bite Nintendo in the ass. Well, that's the question, right, Billy Donuts? You raise an excellent point. Will it bite Nintendo in the ass? That remains to be seen. It is entirely dependent on. Yep, we have a month before we find out the truth. Now, my hope is that yes, I normally don't hope or wish for things to flop or fail. Usually, I try not to, but in this particular case, I don't want Nintendo to go under. I don't want them to lose people to lose their jobs. But at the same time, I really want Nintendo to hurt for what they're doing.
There is only one way Nintendo learns, and if you look at that stock price, notice those low points. That was when they fucked up a console generation. That middle part between the Wii bump, and the Nintendo Switch long-term sustained growth, that was the Wii U era. And before that Wii bump, that was the combined N64 and GameCube era. It's like, and to add on top of this whole legal problem, Palworld is still fresh in people's minds, and they only got away with Palworld is because that's a Japanese studio.
Yep.
What
And
about
even in
the
the West,
US?
it was sheltered in the West. But yeah, you're right. There are mechanics that actually got changed in Pal World because of that.
Yeah.
Again, the
Now-
tyranny of these company and the tyranny of Nintendo cannot be understated here.
And there's only one way Nintendo's going to learn financial pain, and the current leadership just doesn't get it. The two previous leaderships that led into the Switch era, Tatsumi and Reggie. Tatsumi, for example, why do I bring this guy up? He was he was a long time head of Nintendo of America, the only corporate branch of Nintendo that was trying to fight all of Nintendo's nonsense for the longest time. He got into the CEO position, fixed a lot of shit, but he only stayed a mere 3 years in the top leadership position before the new guy came in, and then Reggie left. And what do we see over a few years of those after those people left?
Yep.
All of this nonsense.
They lost the powerful and good leadership they had. The leadership that gave them this height is now gone. And now, those who inherited this empire, so to speak, don't respect its foundations of what Nintendo has built. And because they don't respect its foundations and its principles of what made it good, they are now seeking actively to take advantage of it, to just basically squeeze as much money as they can out of it, regardless of the repercussions or damages in the long term. This is going to do long-lasting, permanent damage to Nintendo's reputation, regardless of whether or not it succeeds or fails. This is the beginning of a crack, basically a foundation for bad things to come, as this crack will only widen as time goes on. It might not be a big enough crack to do any significant damage to the foundation, but now it's here, and it's not going anywhere. People are going to remember this. People aren't going to forget this. And as time goes on, and if they compound failure after failure, that crack is going to deepen and deepen until the whole thing comes tumbling down.
Yeah, they generated a lot of bad will with the whole Power World thing, and they threw gasoline onto that fire over months. It's like they were driving this home for a long time and pissing people off. You throw all this Nintendo Switch 2 nonsense on there, that's the equivalent of just spraying jet fuel onto already existing inferno. And they just don't stop, is the worst part. I mean, if you want the whole gist of it, you look at that PC Gamer article where, for once, we're in lockstep with games journalists. It sums up just all of these problems with Nintendo Switch. Nintendo thinking they could just brick your Switch. What happens when you get that customer unfriendly? As we learned with GOG, you're gonna get your games pirated even more so. And if you think, and Nintendo has this delusion that they think they can stop emulation and pirating, no, you can't. GOG learned this lesson, and hence they printed money for the longest time by actually giving a customer-friendly service of...
When it comes to, like, piracy and stuff like that, as a former actual professional anti-pirate agent that specialized in anti-piracy measures for companies to take, you can't stop piracy. That is a pure fact coming from an actual professional. You can't stop piracy. You can only treat it. And the best way to treat it is to first start at the root, which is a service issue, then exposability. But the issue is that they think, and a lot of these corporate people, because I've worked with people like this, by the way, they think that they can stop it. They think that they can control it, and there are even some arrogant enough to think they can monetize it. And yes, they do exist. Not gonna name names, but we've talked to a few people. The most outlandish one is the monetization. But yes, we live in a very interesting time, chat, where we find ourselves aligned with very weird people. Not just with journalists. In this particular case, there comes a point in which corporation oversteps its bounds that you find yourself tugging on a rope, and you find the weirdest allies next to you. In this particular case, we find ourselves aligned with people like Epic. Now, it doesn't mean we agree with these things, or Epic as a company, or these journalists as a whole, because they often are wrong. But in this particular case, in this particular instance, we're all on the same page. And the same page here is basically that a lot of these companies like Nintendo and Microsoft are overstepping their bounds with greedy $80 games, with absurdly, ridiculous pricing, and as well as trying to be able to brick your systems if you don't adhere to their anti-modding or anti-this, whatever bullshit. And they're punishing loyal customers who buy their product, because that's what this is. That's what this is, and that's what often this stuff does. When you do these sort of anti-piracy measures on your disk or on your system or on your computer or in a programmatic way, and it's not done via an agency like a proper way it should be done, like what you're doing is you're actually harming the loyal customers and you're spitting on them for being loyal. That's what you're doing.
And the worst part is the content offerings are getting worse and worse for these companies. It's like, you're looking for, okay, what am I getting for $80? Simple, basic economic question. What do I get for this $80? I'm getting open world Mario Kart with little anything else. Fantastic. So you're asking me to pay more money for barely any new content. I mean,
Yep.
What do I get for, say, $80 from most of Microsoft's games? South of Midnight.
Yeah, the quality of game is not worth it. Like, that's the big thing. Also, real quickly.
Now, South of Midnight, for a disclaimer, is not $80, but I'm just putting it as an example because they announced it.
Donates 50 Norwegian kroners and says, is it strange? I've never played any Nintendo games or consoles. No, it's not strange or out of the ordinary at all. There's nothing unique about that. In fact, most people, a good majority of people haven't and never will from what I've heard. Well, the big thing is that it doesn't really matter if you have or haven't played Nintendo products. It doesn't really matter at all. Why it matters the most in terms of the industry is because the industry looks to each other. Look at Microsoft and Nintendo. Hell, look at this fucking fan art we got from Leckenfish, right? Microsoft and Nintendo are literally pushing the same thing. These corporations, what Nintendo does matters. I don't really consume Nintendo products all that often, hardly ever, honestly. Last time I bought anything Nintendo related was for the Pikmin games, and those games are awesome. Now, regardless of it all, Nintendo does produce really good quality products and good games. That's not really up for debate or discussion. The games aren't shit. The games are really good, and they should be on PC so that everyone can experience them. However, they aren't, and so people often emulate them because they're so good. And I don't blame them because they are so good. They are worth playing, and they are worth trying, because there's a reason why Nintendo became such a big brand and a big staple. It earned that through lots of hard and rigorous work. However, what they're doing now is they're trying to maintain their monopoly not through the merit of their own skill, but rather through abusing legal systems to try to basically handicap any of their competition, like they did with Palworld, for instance. And that's not okay. Now, Squealy, how do you feel about this?
It's happened before, it'll happen again.
Yeah, but like details.
Well, let me finish. Don't just cut me off. I can see you smiling.
There was a pause.
But Nintendo has pulled something like this before. I think it was with the discussion on how they didn't want to bring old Nintendo games forward, like a lot of the DS games specifically. And that if you emulate them, they will still be very upset with you for doing so. And I always thought that was interesting because they know people want to see these games. Fuck, they're even putting like N64 games on the Switch through their premium. But they refuse to just sell the games outright again on the Switch.
That's true.
Like, it's not that difficult. They know how to do it. Fuck, with the Wii U shit, they can just do what they did with the fucking Wii U games or with the fucking 3DS game. Just move them forward. It's not hard.
Yeah.
They know it's not hard. They just don't care.
This is also annoying. Like, it's weird because this rope meme is funny. Because on a different subject, Microsoft is actually doing the right thing. It's such a complicated fucking mess that the industry is right now. It's such a shit show. Not every company is absolutely acting terribly, except Nintendo. Except Nintendo. I don't think they're doing a single damn good thing. But Microsoft, on the other note, is actually pushing for the end of gaming, game exclusivity. And has been pushing hard for basically games to be put on every platform, including PC and including other systems. Even so much as far as going far as porting even the new Gears game, or the Gears Remaster, to Sony stuff as well. Which is actually a step in the right direction for not only the industry, but as gamers as a whole. And that's actually a good thing, with a capital G. However, at the same time, they're also pushing $80 games. So, you know, they just can't take a win. They have to also take 2 steps back at the same time. I absolutely just can't understand how these corporations just, let's do one thing right. Okay. Now let's do like several things wrong. Oh yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great. This is the time we live in, chat. It's an interesting time to say the least.
I'm thinking it's more so a case that they already had all these things planned out, and they were just gonna roll with them later on in the in the future. Because they always wanted to do the fucking $80 bullshit. They just waited till when it was most convenient, I suppose, with a new console release.
That's true. Either way.
Now the funny thing is, this whole attempt, Nintendo's the only one that can even attempt this. Now get away with it is a whole other story.
Hold on, one moment. Just so we can get through this. Psycho Star 2 says, glad my nostalgia is not Nintendo invested. Because he's heading out, that's why. And also have a good day, Psycho Star. And yes, I activated the shade. Chat can always toggle things on the model to help change their experience, I suppose. Todd donates $10 and says, hi, Bickering Bunch. Love the comic, but I surprised that Steam is not sitting in the background eating popcorn. Also, Breed Kibbs, Regu Pasta. That's because if this panel could be bigger, Steam would be tugging on the same side as Epic, actually. Because the reality is Steam is actually not really advocating for anything particularly negative. Though, at the same time, they're also not really getting involved in this particular case, because Steam doesn't really develop games as much as they just simply are a platform for people to put their games on. So you're kind of right in that regard, I guess, more so. In the background, eating popcorn. Also, Brie Kibbs, Regu Pasta, Shave Fuzzy. Yes, of course. Far Fuzzy must be well shaved. Also, Fit Kibbs, Sandwich, and Kibbs Choice. Well, that's very kind of you, Toddley. Very kind indeed. And thank you for
It makes
me
me
always
go,
bear
by the
minimum.
way.
What?
Makes me go, by the way.
Good job. We've made the weekly goal. Congratulations, Chatfish. We've done it yet again.
I will always at least have a 5 o'clock shadow.
Now, as you were saying, Fuzzy, because I had to get through the supers.
But yeah, the fact that if we could go to the Microsoft pricing, I think I posted it above, where we have a chart of what they're raising their prices to. The fact that Microsoft is attempting this makes me raise eyebrow.
The price
even worse, because we already talked about Nintendo, and Nintendo's the only one that can even attempt this, but I don't think they'll get away with it. But that's just my personal prediction.
Like how Microsoft is doing this?
Has even less chance, and they're doing this right off the heels of people raging at Nintendo for this.
Yes, because they're doubling down. They see the momentum, and they're going to try to just jump on it now. Because Microsoft wants to do this, right, Fuzzy? They see their opposition do it, and now they're hoping to jump on board. Now, what's weird is Sony can actually do the right thing here and just simply not jump on board. We'll have to see what they do.
They helped start this raising prices.
Yeah, that's true.
Give them.
I have a feeling they're staying kind of quiet and not going to make it a public deal. But the big thing going forward here is that I think a lot of these companies, like, they want to just raise prices. They purely do. The big thing is, look at the Game Awards, right? The Game Awards is honestly a disaster for the games industry. Why is it a disaster? What is it doing that's bad? Let's ask ourselves that.
It's a corporate marketing circle jerk.
That too.
Or they pat themselves on the back.
But it's
not
very
to mention
much good.
It's also it's one of those instances. First of all, about Microsoft and Nintendo, I have to stress this one thing. Microsoft and Nintendo of America are in Seattle area, and believe Washington and Redmond, which are right next to each other. If those executives want to talk to each other, it's just a quick drive down down. So if you're wondering why they're I wouldn't be surprised if there was some discussing about this as soon as Microsoft heard about this. Now back to the Game Awards. You have all of these, essentially the biggest names in gaming, and a lot of the upcoming promising talent, such as if you have any promising upcoming studios like Lorien, you have all these companies in one area. It used to be, was it E3? E3? Oh my god, it's been so long. It used to be E3, but now it's the Game Awards. And the Game Awards is even more insidious. It's because that's the Hollywood Award Show, but for gaming.
Yep.
And what is the Hollywood Award Show? Corruption, pat on the back, just all sorts of big industry backroom nonsense.
Yep, it's what we call an industry self-masturbatory practice. It is bad in every regard. The reason why the Game Awards are a sham is because A, it's number one, it's sellouts, and two, it's also so corporate to high hell that the only people that ever win are the people who are specifically in the end, so to speak. And so this is how they keep their circle so tight and create this like little not parasocial, but social group in which people who are part of the end can actually move up, and people who aren't are ostracized. People who dare stand out.
Yeah, because most gaming talent, which is mostly tech talent, is focused in a few select areas. Los Angeles, or for the longest time, focused in a few areas. Los Angeles, Austin, Seattle. And maybe with only a few sprinkled in around other major metropolitan areas.
Yep.
In the US.
Now,
that's where all of the money is.
Grumpy Uncle says Microsoft has nothing to lose because they have no golden eggs of their own. This is not just true with Microsoft, but this is also true with Sony as well. Now, Sony did stumble upon Helldivers 2, and that's actually been quite a big success, in spite of the fact that Sony has been honestly undermining its success at every conceivable opportunity, thusly actually damaging it more than anything else. Impressive corporate incompetence and display there. But yeah, they don't have any golden eggs. Microsoft doesn't have any good games. What do they have that's new? Like, what does Microsoft have that's new? Right? The best thing I can think of right now is the Halo Master Chief Collection, which is just the old games.
That's not new.
Yeah, the Age of Empires 2 Definitive, which is an ancient game that just has some new content, and that's it.
Now, I know Fuzzy's been referencing it a lot. Apparently, South of Midnight is very positive on Steam, so I don't know, like, what's the actual
I was heard
opinion on that.
I have no idea.
Well, I'm looking at Steam, right? It currently has 2,000 reviews and 94%.
That's pretty bad.
So it might be just bombing, like, sales-wise.
Might be bombing sales-wise, yeah. Because sales-wise,
when it comes to Steam reviews,
yeah.
When it comes to Steam reviews, there are two numbers. If it's positive or negative, and also the amount. Those are the two things you need to look at.
Because South of Midnight's like $1 million budget game, if I remember right. It's in the millions. It's one of those AAAs.
It was expensive. There was development help.
AAA, if it isn't the GDP of all South American countries combined, it's not AAA. It's not AAA.
Bit of exaggeration, but the point still stands. It's a metaphor.
It's at least a South American country, at the very least.
Imagine America, but South. Disgusting.
Pretty much. Oh my gosh.
Microsoft's only golden egg is Game Pass, but they keep raising prices on that as well. I wouldn't be surprised if part of this was, okay, if you prefer to own your stuff, own in heavy quotations, they're going to raise prices on you. Or if you refuse to that, they're going to try and push you onto Game Pass to get money out of you anyway, and you have even less control over your games.
This is like a lot of business software, by the way, especially like when it came to like certain Microsoft software that I was looking into using for writing and stuff for the development of our game, and other software, where it's like you can subscribe and pay $60 a month, which is like, holy shit, $60 a month for this shit. Then, or you can pay $10,000 and have a lifetime license for this one version of it. And it's like, Jesus Christ, no thanks. No thanks. I think I'll just use Google Docs. I think I'll just use...
Is Word that expensive for you?
That's not Word. That's like other software. That's
like everyone uses Word.
That's like more advanced software, Squealy, than just Word.
Okay.
Word and Excel are like the everybody software. The like dynamic things that allow for like family trees and like webs and stuff like that, like which allow for better and more handcrafted things, are much more expensive. Substantially so. I think it's Vizio or something. I don't remember. It was expensive last I looked. It could be cheaper now. But fuck that. I'd rather just draw it on a fucking... I'd rather use MS Paint. Jesus Louises. Alright. Let's see. Frederick says maybe Central Caribbean. Most countries. Listen. It's at least a country somewhere. Maybe Andorra, perhaps. Just a geography quiz. Geography quiz. Can we get a license for Gibbs? I don't know about that. Go ahead, Fuzzy.
I was gonna say about all this problem. Schreier actually wrote an article where he just gathered a bunch of points that many of us had been observing of this raising prices could actually lead to the exact opposite of less sales and less revenue. We already got some hint of this with Breath of the Wild 2, where if you compare the time frames, Breath of the Wild 2 made a lot less money than Breath of the Wild 1 with less attachment. It was also
incredibly lazy. Like, okay, so
yeah,
I played Breath of the Wild. I wasn't very impressed, but if you like that game, there's nothing wrong with it, right? There's nothing. This is a personal disagreement. I didn't really care for the sandbox, but Breath of the Wild sequel is literally just the same game with a couple extra mechanics and the same everything else. It's not worth the asking price in the slightest.
Yeah. But he brings up a couple points. One, hiking prices will make players be even more selective with their games choices, which will not lead to growth. Only a few games like maybe Grand Theft Auto 6 and other top titles can even attempt to get away with this. 2, Claire Expedition 33, Blueprints, and Split Faction. They have very different titles, but a lot in common. Clear, focused games made by relatively small teams with specific goals, commonly available technology. They didn't reinvent the wheel, but pushed the games in specific ways that AAA refuses, and they don't have $200 million+ million-dollar budgets, which means they don't need to sell 10 million copies to break even. I'm not even talking return on investment. I'm just talking about breaking even.
That's true.
And they're under $60. And when you see a lot of these companies, and these are the top-rated games. And all 3 of these top-rated games are designed for very specific player bases to satisfy a player base rather than appealing to everybody. And the funny thing is, of trying to appeal to a very specific player base, they actually appeal to more players.
That's true.
It's like, hey, we do something really good. Other people see good thing. I'm gonna give it a try. It's not that expensive. What did Claire Obscura do, for example?
Nothing.
And right after
Nothing
Oblivion,
new.
It
That's the funny part.
It sold 1 million copies in a very short time span when EA declared Dragon Age Veilguard failure for hitting similar numbers.
Yep, it's one of those things where, again, wow, God, the story of EA is one I always find fascinating. EA sees like Resident Evil and is like, wow, that's amazing. I want those horror game sales. Revives Dead Space. It sells about 1 million copies or so. Like, that's not big enough for me. I'm mad. And then they always trend chase. EA's always caught trend chasing. That's all they do nowadays. They just trend chase, and trend chase. All the time. And because they're always chasing trends, they always get the tail end of it. The balance of this audio is so off. I needed my composer to go through this and tweak all them. I don't know why some tracks are loud. Jesus. Alright, so. But yeah, either way. It's one of those situations where it's just funny because they're always fucking behind the times now. They can't even catch up anymore. But that used to be the opposite way back when. Let's see. Genghis 2000 says, oh, model update. Can you go? Maybe. I don't know.
You used to click your tongue.
Yeah, we can do that. Oh, yeah. Pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, check your eyes moving upwards.
Does it?
Look up.
That's me looking up.
Face the camera.
That's me looking up based on the camera. If it ain't doing it, it ain't doing it.
It's not doing it.
Good.
You cannot act on it.
Yeah, take that. We'll tell Bonald about it if it's another Chatfish request for $10,000, of course.
Might be able to make it into not a filter, but a switch where the eyes just get shot into the air, and regardless of what you're looking.
That'd be weird. All right. Well, either way, the big thing is when it comes to the whole shabackle, the shaboodle, if you will, is that I think Microsoft is one of those companies that just kind of behind the times here, and along with EA, obviously. But when it comes to again, jumping the gun on the whole fucking $80 price tag thing and be like, yep, we can have that. And it's like, yep, no, you can't. Like, it is that. Because I can tell you right now, as a streamer, the only reason why I buy games is because that's my way to make my living. Every time I see $80 games or like streamer tax on a game like $90 to get 5-day early access, I think I want to smack my face against my desk every time I see that shit. Every time I have to buy that garbage, even if it is tax deductible, I don't care. That shit's fucking expensive. Fucking almost $100 for a video game that might be worth playing for 8 hours. Are you shitting me? Like, Jesus, I'd rather buy Return of the King Extended Edition, the Trilogy Collection, which is more hours of content than that, for cheaper. For cheaper. And it has replayability.
Yeah, and what I like to laugh at Microsoft... Oh, I'm getting a phone call.
Ring, 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 banana phone. I've got that feeling that Fuzzy's in trouble. What if he is in trouble? Chat, don't laugh at him. That's pretty rude.
He's gonna die, and you're laughing at him, Chatfish. Fuzzy's dying, you're laughing at him.
Yeah, it's a very nice chat. I just apologize. Apologize, chat.
Don't worry, I'll laugh with you.
Yeah, back. Okay, so where was I?
You were
Yeah, it's a funny
dying.
thing.
No,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Microsoft spent what? Uh, Factoring all their acquisitions and game funding, probably over 100 billion on all of these titles. And what do we have for return on investment? Their best launch was a remaster of Oblivion that they didn't really market.
That's the funny
All
part.
of the original.
Yeah, because they're riding on the coattails of Oblivion's like legend. It's a game of legendary status.
And it gets even worse. This is not even an in-house Microsoft studio or talent. Bethesda only oversaw this. It was
Yep.
it was an outsourced French studio run by that was owned by a Singapore company or Asian company that made this.
Yep.
All of their in-house developed titles, we have two examples of all of his big acquisitions. Avowed and or for original titles, Avowed and South of Midnight, and probably one or few others I'm not thinking of. What do we have? This is the best you got, Microsoft? You spent a lot of money on this. And not even your core studios can't make games anymore. That Microsoft owns a lot of studios that you made a lot of games I liked.
Well, it's not just that.
One,
like Microsoft has literally become the new EA. Like that's the reality. Ensemble Studios way back when pulled the plug on. 343 was a golden goose, or not 343, sorry. No, they weren't. Bungie was a golden goose, and they let it slip through their fingers. And again, Microsoft was mismanaging them as well, even under their like watch. Like they've been not competent with anything that's been under their umbrella forever. Yeah. They keep meddling. And corporate meddling is honestly one of the biggest problems in the games industry that dates back to time immemorial, where you have a corporate manager coming in saying what a game should do rather than what a game should do, what a game should really do, right? Look at Dead Space. Dead Space is a core example. Dead Space 1 and 2, peak. Dead Space 3, is that even a Dead Space game? Like, I like it, but it's not a Dead Space game. It's let's chase the popular trend. It's meddling. That's what it is. Meddling. Not on just an artistic level, but a music level and on a game design fundamental principle level too. Chasing popular trends of the era, which was co-op shooters. Again, popular trend chasing. This is what AAAs have become. AAAs don't set paths anymore. They used to way back when. But now, they're the ones just merely following other greats, and often end up following indies. Now, look at the survival crafting genre. Started by Mojang, right? An indie that was acquired by Microsoft and has been so poorly mismanaged that Minecraft hasn't done anything. Like, since it's being acquired by Microsoft, it's kind of just stagnant. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's not going any places. It's just stuck. Giggles, welcome stream. He says, until the leaks came out, I thought the Oblivion remake was a hoax. Well, the problem is a lot of time when you see those leaks, they're actually planted leaks. They're all fabricated, but they're fabricated to be real. I didn't believe a game like this would come out in 3 months with no marketing. Thing is, they could do it, and it's actually part of the marketing strategy when you actually think about it. Because remember, a hot drop release might actually blow like a fucking tornado. Look at the games that are coming out. Claire Expedition 33. A relatively minor looking game at the surface level, right? Didn't think it was going to be big. I don't care for it, but it is a big game, right? But everything else that was coming out in this ballpark, kind of nothing. There's nothing to compete with. It's kind of a lull. And so they hot drop this game, smack it down, right? And then boom, it's going to eat up all the money because everybody's sitting on their bucks waiting for next month, which is the month we're in, by the way, the month that stuff's coming out. Hell, Doom Dark Ages, Dune Awakening. Dune Awakening's fucking great. I can't believe how good that game is. Like, and Doom Dark Ages is looking to be another set title. So them dropping it right before was actually a brilliant move, and you could actually see that it was actually quite pre-planned. And the whole marketing campaign was shock. And shock campaigns work when done correctly. That was a well-executed shock campaign. I just assumed they greenlit the Oblivion remaster, then said, "What? You actually did it?" Nah, I don't think that's what happened. I think this is well planned out in advance. This is a case of a competent bit of marketing. Might have had some toddly fingers in it, honestly, considering how good he is at reselling old shit. But yeah. So
I Skyrim one more time.
the big thing is they needed a win as well, so slapping this game out was actually relatively easy. Because the thing is, it's not actually something that deserves that much praise in reality. It really doesn't. You know why? All the heavy lifting of the game is done. It's been done. It's just an old-ass game. But it's just all got some slapped in new features and little mechanics here and there. Bada bing, bada bam. You have an old classic now re-released to the many people who've never played it, and now it's like a brand new game. They need a win because Starfield was such a goddamn shit show that they needed to recover that PR. And here's the reality. They're still scared. You know why? Starfield is proof of what they could produce. Starfield is bad. It's hot dog shit is what it is. And Starfield is an indicator of what we are actually going to get in the next Elder Scrolls game, unless they get their shit together. Because if they don't do some actual serious reorganizing and firing of incompetent fools at the helm, we're going to get Starfield Elder Scrolls 7 or whatever. I don't know which Elder Scrolls we're on. But either way, that's the one that's coming. Or is it 6? I think it's 6. It's going to be hot garbage. It's what it's probably going to be. Unless they do a serious course correction. And who knows? Maybe they'll course correct back to Oblivion. But what's funny is Oblivion's just a bastardized version of Morrowind. And Morrowind's just a bastardized version of Daggerfall. It's just Elder Scrolls, the one franchise that just goes backwards. Actually, no, it's not unique. Never mind. Total War does that too. It's okay. You're in good company.
No, kids. Total War shows old features as new features.
No, you don't understand. The most
Elder
features
Scrolls
are
just
gone.
removes them all together.
Total War pretends that they're new. It's like we kept one basic mechanic. Oh, by the way, we're moving the next title. Removing the next. Oh, sadness. Starfield is what Bethesda is making. Oblivion Remastered is what people want Bethesda to be making. Yes. And the thing is, Oblivion's highly overrated. It's not that great of a game, but it's actually just pretty fun. It's a time capsule from the 2000s where everything was just kind of fun. Everything was fun back then. It's not a great game, but it's a good game. And honestly, that's good enough. You don't have to be legendary. You don't have to be groundbreaking. You just need to make a fun game. And that's all people are really asking for. But the big problem is that most companies don't want to just make a fun game. They want the big next blockbuster. Look at EA. Despite the fact that EA sits on a treasure trove of amazing IPs that just refuses to do anything with it. Medal of Honor, Command & Conquer, Dungeon Keeper, Black and White, so many great things, and they'll never ever do anything with them. You know why? Because EA is dumber than a box of rocks. That's why. Because they want massive, big sales, blockbusters, earth-shattering like IPs. But the big thing is, not every IP is going to be earth-shattering. Not every IP needs to be earth-shattering. Some of the best games ever made, most people haven't even heard about. And most people never will. Because the reality is that the gaming market is so vast and so large that there are so many of us now that, quite frankly, there are entire genres that I've never even touched that have their own communities, like this farming simulator group that do esport farming simulator. God help my soul. God help my soul.
The Germans love that for some reason.
Speed runners, like that play old ass games and speed run them. Retro gamers who just like to play old vidges. Modders for modding old games to high hell and basically constantly keeping them alive. The thing is, when it comes to gaming, gaming is so big it's become a part of our culture. It's a part of human culture now. It always was. It never was new. It's just video games brought us together more than anything before. Before that, we had board games, card games, dice games, things like that.
Family.
But now we have video games. We've reached an elevated point where we're becoming divine. True, chat. We are reaching divinity status.
That's right, Chatfish. Pong was the first step to godhood.
It was. Pong.
Fucking moron.
Pong. Pong, the creator. The originator. The great dreamer. The great ping pong ping. Well, let's see. What made it a great game was the last DLC in Oblivion was a good game before that. Grabs Frank, throws him out the window. CA is worse than Paradox. Paradox remove a bunch of shit that they do add back, and then they pay us for they charge you for, by the way. Remove game. 4 years at some point. Yeah, 4 years. They'll be back to where they were. And then they'll start it all over again, and you'll buy it again. Now, we've talked a lot about Nintendo and Microsoft, but quite frankly, I never want to hear their names again for the rest as long as I live. So,
But yeah, we gotta talk about how they're no longer really trying to sell Xbox.
let's talk about some good news for a change. How about that? Because, you know, we've been kind of on a doom spiral, and I don't like that. We got to be bunch pilled. Bunch pilled is neither white nor black pilled. It's understanding that there's good and evil in all things, and that there can be good things. Oh, wow. That's not fan setting. Not fan setting. Stupid. I feel insulted now. It's like a slur,
Right.
honestly. All right.
Don't worry, you're the least heavy fence sitter I've met so far.
I know what that. That's terrible. Jesus Christ. So, we've got some good news for you, Chatfish. And yeah, Gears of War. Now, many of you who've never had an Xbox might have missed out on this. Now, you might not have, because Gears of War 1, fun fact, was on PC actually all along. Fun fact. But it's not on Steam, and it's actually kind of hard to procure, or a little annoying to procure. But they're actually releasing it on Steam soon, and Gears of War Reloaded, which is basically just the first game again. Also for Sony people, you'll be able to touch this game too, so that'll be quite nice. It's a real treat, and I'm glad that more people are going to get a chance to play it. Because Gears of War is a fun third-person cover shooter, romp somp, that did inspire the whole cover shooter trend, which got nauseating there for a while. But this one's a solid one, and it's really good with friends, and it's got a great co-op mode and stuff like that. And honestly, this is a great move because this means we might actually see Gears of War 2 and Gears of War 3 also make their way to PC and PlayStation as well. Again, less exclusivity, more. I don't like the word inclusivity. It's been raped so much now I feel like using it's dirty. But I like the idea that more people can play it because I want everyone to play this game because it's really fun. Just like I want everyone to play Killzone 2 because it's also fun. But Sony's still being a little bit of a, one of those companies.
You want to play Killzone 1, kids?
I don't know about that.
I think they're dominant with the PlayStation brand. And I think
chest high walls. You see any chest high walls, you know there's a combat encounter coming up. Gears of War's got a great atmosphere. It's got a great story, and it's sadly one of those franchises that's been horribly mismanaged by Microsoft. After Gears of War Judgment, pretty much everything goes downhill fast. Some might argue that Judgment is the start of that, but I enjoyed Judgment for what Judgment was, which was kind of like a melancholic end and goodbye to the franchise. That's how I viewed it anyways. But either way, yeah, I wouldn't recommend any of the Gears games after Judgment, honestly. Just pretend the franchise is dead. Gears 4, Gears 5.
Gears Tactics.
Hot garbage. Gears Tactics is, it's like okay, but you could probably skip it.
Is there a Gizmo Ball game? I need to find it.
What's with Kib's voice? What do you mean, what's with my voice? This is normal. This is how I normally sound. Now I'm worried. Do I sound sick or something?
no. Yeah.
Like, I mean, paranoid shit.
The only known
What's wrong
Gears
with
of
my
War
voice?
mobile game was Gears Pop, a real-time strategy game where players battle with Funko Pop.
That's terrible. I don't like that. Funko Pop? Oh my god, that's cringe. Jesus Christ, man. The only Funko Pop I ever had was a gift from my mom, and it was like of the Doom guy. And yeah, let's keep it kind of between you and me, but I don't think I have anymore. I think I threw it in the garbage. I appreciate the gesture, but plastic garbage on my desk isn't gonna do me any good. True. Like, wham. Ow, 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 ow. Got a little bit of a scritch scratch going on. Funko Kibbles, I'll Funko you. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, Chatfish. So, let's talk about the Gears thing for just a hot second here, Chat Bros. So, we got a lot to talk about, actually. So, the Gears remaster is looking pretty interesting. But the thing that I like about this is that I really don't want to see another Gears game, to be honest with you. I don't want to see...
They're making the...
I don't want to see Gears 5. I don't want to see Gears 6.
They're making the prequel, though.
I don't want to see Gears 4. I am interested in Gears of War Emergence Day, but we'll see how that turns out. I have my worries. It's such an easy win because it's got Marcus Phoenix and Dom's back. Dom! My fucking tomatoes! My fucking... Oh god, kill me.
I forgot it was called Emergence Day. It's Judgment Day.
E-Day. Judgment Day is the...
Yeah,
Judgment is the last expansion. Or the last game in the Xbox 360 timeline.
That's why I didn't say it.
When we get a Funko Aerith? I don't think so. You can get body pillows of Aerith if you want. Tell you what, chat, you want a body pillow of this smoking hot babe? You can fund one right now. True. True. You can have your very own Captain Aerith. Captain Aerith, I would never put her in charge of anything.
Doll.
I would never put her. What do you mean you'd never put her in charge of anything? That's pretty mean. That's pretty mean.
What is one thing
nasally.
that Aerith is actually competent at, Gibbs?
They can't say that on stream.
Oh.
Just like, whoa. I've seen the fan art, okay? Giggles has made some interesting portrayals. I'm just saying. I don't have high hopes for Gears will Pico from what I know, says Boulder. Yeah, I'm going to level my expectations to, I hope it's just on par with Gears 1. Which is asking a lot. I know.
Goddamn theoretical man. I'm good. I have enough crusty fabric in my room. God damn it.
Sometimes you just don't need to know too much information. See, I'm just joking here, right? I'm just joshing with you, chat. I'm joshing with you. Oh, he's saying old lingo. And they start withering. I could have sworn that Gears 1 and 3 were on Steam before. No, but yeah, they're not. They should be. If they were on Steam, dudes, I would have streamed that game a little bit too much to the point where I'd be complaining about how chat doesn't want to watch it no more. It's true. Problem is, I played Halo and chat still shows up for that, but I don't want to play Halo anymore. I played Halo so much that I kind of want to take a break from that franchise and let me just forget it a bit. I'm ready to
play Halo 4.
No.
You haven't played that in a while.
No, I don't think so. I don't think we will. Nope. Nope. Is it just Gears 1 or all of the first 3? No, it's just 1. That's what disappointed me. Honestly, this announcement isn't the most exciting because they should have announced the Phoenix Collection or something and on the levels of the MCC for Master Chief Collection, but they dropped the ball and they just made Gears of War Reloaded, which honestly is a really bad name. I'm sorry. Gears of War Reloaded sounds like something straight out of the 2000s. That's gonna bomb. That's gonna bomb.
It's a Matrix movie, Gibbs. That's what...
Yeah, another Unreal Engine 5 remake.
Yeah, it's on. Okay, so I have some critique. While I do have positive notes, this is on Unreal Engine 5, and Unreal Engine 5 kind of looks bad. Like a lot of the unique individuality that the old Unreal Engine had that looked better is kind of lost because the new Unreal Engine's not really good. And I think it's just universally fact accepted now that most people think that UE5 is kind of just bad. It's not really up for debate, it's just a matter of fact. Hell, the older Unreal Engines were much more interesting and did a lot better visuals. But the big problem is Unreal 5 has so many glaring, awful graphical bugs like the sword or like grass, like multiple frame generation shit. And AI frame generation is one of the worst trends up next to film grain. Absolutely monstrous. What the fuck? I don't want AI generated frames. Make my game look like it's like fucking Play-Doh. What the hell? What are you doing here?
It is so bad that there is a universal mod for all Unreal Engine 5 games that makes alterations to the engine.ini or INE files to make the game look better and run better, such as it forces the disabling of ray tracing or forces the disabling of film grain.
Yeah. I think these graphic trends, while ray tracing is funny, as somebody who's used it now, I don't really care about it. It's not really important. And it honestly just is a focus that doesn't really do anything of interest. The biggest graphical trend thing that was cool was PhysX. PhysX was super cool, especially when they were playing with the idea of liquid simulation. As in liquid and river and water flowing out of things would actually bounce around and stuff. They experimented with this a lot with Borderlands 2, and you can actually turn it on in the settings. If you have Borderlands 2, go to your settings and turn on PhysX. And you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It looks really cool when you shoot enemies. It squirts blood out. There's like lots of liquid simulation stuff. It's a little goofy with how it reacts to the environment, but it's honestly a graphical thing that I wish they had pursued, but they didn't. PhysX is cool. PhysX makes games look cool because it interacts with the gameplay with both particle simulation when you shoot things with like explosions of debris or with blood and liquids. No game wants to experiment with PhysX no more. Sad. Well, actually, no. PhysX is in most games, but it's never used for liquid simulation. Liquid simulation got left behind. Goofy. They've given up on liquid simulation, but I think that was the coolest goddamn thing. Liquid simulation was so cool. Yes, it was goofy, but there was something novel about seeing it like flow down steps and like roll off hills and stuff. sliding down like wow. Is
Didn't
UE5
make games
actually
run
worse than
badly.
UE4? I don't know. They're both bad. Unreal Engine 4 and 5 suck. And honestly, I just kind of wish that the remaster for Gears of War was just in the old Unreal Engine. I don't really want it to be in the Unreal Engine 5. I'm not here to complain about it. I'm just here to say my opinion. But I'm still looking forward to being able to play it again, because Gears of War is actually one of my favorite games. So, that's good. Don't forget motion blur. That you can't turn off. Ah, my eyes! Motion blur, where everything's blurry. Yeah, because, you know, when you're driving down the road and motion blur turns on, and then there's just car accidents everywhere because nobody can see anything. Yeah, that's great. Or depth of field, you have no peripheral vision. Fucking kill myself.
But we need the game look like camera from movie.
Graphical things that just ruin your gameplay. Depth of field is only good in a handful of games. And even then, it's not good. Depth of field is bad.
Flares? Like
Film
lens
grain
flares?
is bad. Lens flare is bad because my eyeball is in the lens. And I like how like bad graphical bugs and error things are becoming like art styles, but they're not artistic. The only type of artistic thing that's come from like lack of technology is what I call low res art. Low res art is an art form of itself and came about due to literally limitations. Low res art, when executed in a modern sense well, is actually really cool. Genghis Prawn says, Cad Monkey says, turn on PhysX, proceed to crash your game with a singular shotgun blast. Looks sick though, yes. If you use the explosive shotgun, and your friends are using explosive shotguns, I forget what they are in the Borderlands 2, with the PhysX turned on, yeah, your performance is gonna drop a little. This is gonna like... But that's why they need to optimize the technology, because I think PhysX was really cool.
Why optimize when someone else can do it for you?
And then they get ray tracing, and ray tracing is just like, it's a lighting gimmick, and it's like, okay, that's all right, but like, lighting is cute and all, but like, lighting in games is actually serviceable in most games. Like, I'd rather like more mechanical things that are tied to gameplay, and PhysX was directly tied to gameplay. It did leaf simulation, grass particle simulation, like rock particle simulation, liquid fit simulation. It did more than just a couple of things, and it was always tied to some sort of gameplay element.
To answer Taratine's comment, is Unreal Engine 5 responsible for the ugly brown filter? No, that's a game developer issue.
Yeah.
Unreal Engine 5 issue.
Unreal Engine 5 can look pretty, despite its many graphical problems. And
optimization problems.
Indiana Jones: The Great Circle has plenty of vibrant colors and no filters.
That's Kev's answered that several times. That's in tech.
Oh, whoops, never mind. Damn. I was going to try to give him a
keep
compliment.
reminding you of that.
Well, Indiana Jones: The Great Circle is a good game. Yeah, it's not on the same engine.
There you go.
Tempest Rising uses color, yes, and it doesn't look like dog shit. That's true. It just suffers from the fact that it's on the Unreal Engine. That's what it suffers from.
It actually runs well, which means it actually can, but I'd imagine the developers had to do a lot of work to get it running that well for an RTS.
They probably did. Well, they did. They instituted a pop cap and only 2v2s, no 4v4s. That's sad.
Yeah.
That's
Right, puppy.
Gears of War Relanced Edition sounds better. Honestly, I think they should just call it Gears of War Phoenix Collection and give me all of them, those cheeky bastards.
They should call it Gears of War, Marcus.
Kid, do you notice that comment right under it? Notice the comment right under the one you have. I think it's quite funny. 2025, 2026, they'll be the years of the remasters and the remakes.
Well, it's not just 2025, 2026. That's been 2020, period. This isn't a new trend, by the way. This isn't just started this year or last year. This has been an ongoing trend since post-2013. 2013 and 2014 are considered the downfall era. Or at least that's what I call it. Downfall meaning that it basically was, there's no good games that really came out anymore, and most of the games that came out kind of limped along because 7th gen was like peak, and then the later stages of 7th gen were just kind of coasting off of what 7th gen started with. And 8th gen is literally bad. 8th gen, almost everything universally was just mediocre or average at best, and bad at the most worst. Like, absolutely,
Yeah,
tremendously so. And so,
yeah, because
8th
it's
gen was
links.
just terrible. And because 8th gen was so bad, 9th gen, in order to recover, doesn't have anything. 9th gen is just 7th gen again. Just different
Yeah.
because they remaster them.
And one last point before I have to go to prepare for work. One thing you're noticing with the Nintendo problems, all the Xbox problems, you're noticing a lot of these bad executives, bad decisions that have been there since the very beginning of when we were born are starting to come to fruition. A lot of the bad leadership that got in, even a lot of the talent that we fondly remember, like the ones that made Stormgate, for example, another Unreal Engine 5 trash game,
Mhm.
are actually not as good as you think they are, and a lot of this talent and a lot of this bad bad energy, you're seeing a lot of the good actors are probably long gone by now, such as the Halo composer has been and a lot of the Halo people I know actually met in my university days, they're retired. A lot of the good leadership are retired, or they just left the industry altogether, and now we're left in a situation where you have Nintendo and a bunch of bad Xbox executives making these decisions, and you have all this new talent struggling that has to do the struggle that they had to do of we have to replace them from the ground up. There are some licensing at the tunnel, like with Stable Interactive making their own in-house stuff. That's just one example. Expedition 33 being another example. That's a bunch of Ubisoft devs that decided to just do their own thing and
Mhm.
actually run their business effectively. So it's not all doom and gloom, but it is going to take effort on all of our parts to make sure that the good ones actually succeed and the bad actors actually fail. Starting with Nintendo next month, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll find out. I mean, I really hope Nintendo's Gambit bites them in the ass. The same with Microsoft. And then the industry has a negative reaction. Like, it needs to be negatively stigmatized, the whole $80 price tag thing. You need to literally, like, when people say that, like, it shouldn't be a violent reaction, but it should borderline be violent
It should be
reactions.
borderline you're throwing up.
Yeah, you should be fucking revulsed. In every
Yeah,
conversation and in every field, yes.
imagine that you just vomit into your screen and SML just spews onto a Microsoft executive's face. I wish that could
Ideally.
happen, but that
Ideally. I mean, honestly, it's the most civil way to get the point across. It's like they're literally gouging us here. Like, this is fucking horrible. This is...
now another light at the end of the tunnel is and this is that 235-page data analysis that I like to cite all the time. Luckily, I've read it. PC gaming is overtaking consoles more and more. The only one that can actually compete with it in size of share of all consumer spending is actually Nintendo. And even then, if you actually look at the long term, Nintendo just combined its mobile and console markets into one Nintendo fan base. That's not going to be enough to dent the continuously growing gaming market. In fact, if you notice, a lot of the stagnation is actually on Microsoft and Sony's part. Why do you think they're expanding onto Steam? It's because they know that their growth is hampered by the fact that nobody's buying. The console markets are slow growth at best, stagnant at worst.
That and PC market's actually going to grow and eventually eclipse it. Consoles are living on borrowed time and always have been.
Nintendo's going to be the longest one to hold out by far.
Yep, because they're going to switch over to handheld portability. But the problem is as phone technology catches up, then they'll be eventually eclipsed. As they already are.
Phones are coming a long way.
Yes. So the big thing is, as technology continues to improve, the two things that are going to see is PC games are going to be like the standard, and then there'll be handheld games. And handheld games will be done by your advanced, like, superphone. And that'll be the thing that plays everything for you. Because that technology will be sophisticated and advanced enough to handle it. I mean, hell, your phone can already play Empire Total War right now. Or at least most of your people's phone. I want to point out that game was state of the art like fucking a decade ago. Or a decade and a half ago. So I just want to point out that
not to remember that.
that means that if that technology is catching up that quickly, then it's not going to be long before phones can play everything on 7th gen consoles, then 8th gen, and then upwards. And so phone technology rising is just going to make it so that your high quality AAA title is literally just a phone game now. Just like, oh my god. No way.
Yeah, and another light at the end of the tunnel, and this is going to hurt Microsoft big time. You're gonna, and we saw this in Indiana Jones. I guarantee you that game would have sold better if it was at least 60 or even $50. You're gonna put an $80 game right next to Expedition 33. Good luck.
Well,
Shit.
ideally, Sturha, handheld games won't be a thing. Like, okay, so there was a point in 6th gen.
Also, sorry to interrupt. I have
you
to
gotta go.
So
Take care, Buzzy. See you later, buddy.
I know.
And back in 6th generation, there was an interesting period in time because handheld games and mobile games and console games, as well as PC games, were on different levels. The most fascinating case to look at is EA's Harry Potter movie tie-in games. Why did I bring up a fucking Harry Potter video game, of all things you're asking? Because when EA commissioned games for Chamber of Secrets and whatever the other one was, Sorcerer's Stone or whatever, I can't remember, my brain's fried. Either way, they had to make one for Game Boy, one for Game Boy Color, or one for Game Boy Advance, one for Game Boy Color, one for your phone, all right? Keep following. One for the console, which then that console version will be ported to the other consoles, and then one for PC. 5 different games for the same thing by 5 different studios. That is a fascinating point in games development history. And I find the Harry Potter games rather fascinating because only EA has the money to do that. Bear in mind that this is back in EA's golden age, so actually all 5 of these games actually turned out, if I remember right, more or less to be cult classics and are considered pretty good games today. So, as time goes on, you see that trend continue, but it sort of changes, right? In 7th gen, you have the Wii version of a game, usually. Then you have the PS3 and Xbox version, and then maybe a PC version, and then maybe a DS version. Which, again, you still have like 5 variations, but you start to see it dissipate and slowly erode away. But I find it rather interesting because you know that these companies can do this. Like, they have the power to be competent. They just don't want to be. Because being competent requires hiring people that actually know what they're doing. Not their best friend, not one of their aligned individuals. How do you feel about Skidden?
I'm not really part of the big console war thing that was happening back then. So, like, when I was a kid growing up, looking at all these like different games coming out and seeing like each variation of the game coming out, I always thought it was really fucking weird that they would release one game on like the Xbox, right, and then you'd get a Game Boy version of it. It's like, what the fuck is this shit? And it always confused me.
You can elaborate on that.
So it confused me, as in like I didn't understand it.
What do you think of that, champ? I think he's a bit retarded.
Like, mind you, I was like 8 at the time. I was the person. I was like a little too young for it.
I will point out this was happening when I was 6 and 7 as well with older games, and it didn't confuse me. I'm just saying, I think you might be a little slow.
Also, the first time I got like an actual console was 12. So
Look at that. Here I am, 3 years old, and I remember being 3 years old and playing fucking on the Sega Saturn. Granted, that was old back then, even by that time. I think it was already being replaced. He lacked understanding, says Frank.
I lacked understanding.
Well, it was just last week. Oh my god. The urge to hire 10 quality HR Karens to filter everything. No, Space Butler, don't do it! He's like, must hire more Karens! Must hire more.
What else are they gonna do?
Oh! That way
They
I
live
can...
as HR.
Ah, I know what they're doing. They're hiring the Karens so that A, they can hit on them, and B, they can steal their breast milk.
Why would you hit on a Karen? They're old.
Because they've had children. Remember them? It's a Blizzard joke.
I
Blizzard
know
took
I know the breast milk, but like they're old.
breast milk. Breast milk. Just what I want from...
I think you're projecting now, kid.
Chad, are you
Bring up
thirsty?
breast milk at a time like this.
Milky. Retarded is what it was. The fact that that actually happened is the funny part. As a Sonic fan, I'm well acquainted with less powerful versions of current games. Yeah, your games did get ported everywhere, and there were a lot of inferior ports. That's the risk with porting games, too. Sometimes you port things and they turn out okay. Other times they port things and they turn out pretty shit. It's true.
I remember people talking about fucking Sonic Unleashed, right? So the Xbox version of that game, that one had like towns that you could explore in.
Mm.
And then the Wii version removed those towns, and people unironically said the Wii version is better because they removed the
Yeah, sometimes developers will be overly ambitious and develop parts of a game that you don't need, right? It's like, do you need a massive sandbox in your game? And there's a lot of games I played where I'm like, no, they really don't, because their sandbox sucks. Like, unless you've got mechanics and things to do in the sandbox, don't make it a sandbox. Because all you're doing is making a vast, empty, boring world. Looks at every Ubisoft fucking game. Looks at Star Wars Outlaws. Oh my god, it's basically just that. Large, vast, interesting art design, great environmental design, completely boring world. Just nothing interesting.
You like Sasso Credo?
The thing is,
like
even
Sasso Credo 2.
the Assassin's Creed games, like the older ones, were actually more focused in smaller areas. If you notice that, like it's just a city. It's a big city, but it's just a city. And so it's like, okay, you can run around. And even then, yes, it did have its problems, because I'm not going to be rose-tinted glasses about this. I mean, my glasses are black, Chet. Like, they can't be rose-tinted. It's true,
Black roses.
Shut up, Squealy. That's against the narrative. Now, more importantly, why I'm right and why you're wrong. More at 11. Watch Dogs 2? Oh, God.
Your opinion, wrong.
We're not going to go on that track. But yeah, Watch Dogs 2 was a special game where it was completely...
That was also just a city.
It was just a city. But they also completely misadvertised that game. Oh, my God. Oh, Jesus Christ, chat. I swear to God.
We don't really get like actual sandboxy games anymore. We get like a Just Cause game every couple of years, but we're not getting like a Prototype or fucking
Infamous, things like that.
Infamous,
Mercenaries,
or fucking the Hulk video game bullshit like that.
The what game? The Hulk?
Yes, the Hulk video game.
Explain.
You remember Prototype 1, Gibbs?
Hmm?
Half of that code came from the Hulk game.
That's amazing.
It's fucking silly.
Prototype 1 is awesome. Todd donates a generous $5 and says, oh yeah, happy Mother's Day, Kibet. Chatfishes love their kibs. Lol, same hashtags. That's true. As a reminder, chat bros, it is important and imperative that right now, or whenever you get a moment, you call your little mama up and you wish her a happy Mom's Day, not a birthday. I was about to say happy birthday.
Madre Day.
So you wish, shut up, or I'll deport you. You wish your mom a happy Mommy's Day, because you know what? She had to, give birth to you, and that was probably quite unfortunate. The dinks.
You should have been swallowed, Chef.
Damn. All right, chat. But I think that kind of covers all the major subjects today of today's Bunchcast. But before we move on to the next stream, we have one quick thing we need to talk about. The first thing I need to talk about is gaming related, and it is a new game, and it is related, but it's not necessarily a Bunchcast thing because I'm playing the beta, so I'm going to relegate this to mostly my opinion, kind of. But the Dune Awakening game is promising to be basically kind of like an actual survival open world crafting game that actually isn't absolutely boring and just not fun. So far, it's actually been rather interesting with a lot of like in-depth flavor and actual true care for Frank Herbert's Dune. Like a lot of love went into this. Even the radio stations that you can listen to, like there's radio dramas that play in this game, like fully voice acted radio dramas, and they're pretty funny. They got this 1940s-esque flair to them. But yeah, it's actually not bad. And it's made by Funcom. It's potentially going to be another Helldivers level success, though in terms of like just being a surprise out of the blue. Because I didn't think anyone was expecting this game to be like big, but it's got potential to be the next quote-unquote Helldivers in terms of scale of success, if executed well. Not same genre, mind you, because it's open world survival crafting. But it's actually really good and really competently made, with a surprising amount of detail and respect towards the source material. Like, I'm genuinely surprised how well it was made, or how well the beta is so far. Bearing in mind that it is in beta right now, and we are going to stream more of the beta very soon. Now, the next subject I have to talk about for today, and the final subject for you chatfishes, is not just the fact that I like chatfish as much as the next guy. Like, what does that mean? How much does the next guy on average like chatfish? These are good questions. I can't quite tell you the answers to these questions. But
I'm sure the other guy likes eating them.
what? What did you say, Squealing?
The next guy likes eating chat.
Why would you eat them? They're little guys. They're very delicate.
Tasty.
So, either way. This fan art, by the way, was produced by Lycanfish on the spot for today's Bunchcast. Be sure to give him head pats in the Discord server. It's quite funny. You've got Aerith here, looking saucy as ever, pulling on her little rope. And it turns out that Todd Sweeney... No, I'm kidding. It's a joke, Squealy. It's not just a mistake. It's not just a... It's a good meme. I hate it. I absolutely loathe it. But good job, Lickyfish. Very good job. When do we do more Helldivers? Well, in terms of gaming news, I've got a bit more news for you. Helldivers 2 will be getting a massive update. Well, actually, no, I don't know about the massive. It's getting a massive update soon, but I don't know when that's going to drop. I do know that the Warbond is going to drop on May 15th, and I hope that that coincides with the massive update. I hope they don't just drop the Warbond and then not drop the update, because that'd be friggin' cringe, in my opinion. Mostly because Helldivers 2 is one of those games where it's reaching what I call the end of its zeitgeist moment, where it's actually slipping to the point where I think Helldivers 2 is going to not be relevant anymore, even to play. Mostly because I played it so much that I'm kind of bored of it. Like, they haven't really added anything new. There's nothing interesting. There's no new enemies, there's no new missions, there's no new vehicles. They need to get their shit together, and they need to actually put out some new content, because now they're reaching the point in which it's been a year now, and it's time to start increasing the content in this game by tenfold. And if they don't do that, we're in a bit of a pickle. And that's true. Next up, and also, lastly, we have to talk about Chatfish, is... Not that button. This button. Check out our new channel, chat. This is self-shill mode. Time to shill my own stuff to you, because you're my Chatfish. I want to put it right here. So, if you didn't know, these streams, and all streams we do, go towards funding my indie game, which I'm developing under the studio, Battle Damage Studios. And we are basically working on an indie game, sort of a turn-based role-playing game that we have been working on for many years now. And yeah, we're starting to produce lore videos. So if you want to check out lore videos, I'm going to try to release them on a weekly basis, though sometimes it might be bi-weekly. I might not be able to do them every week. But yeah, you can check them out. 2 lore videos are out. The Nefir Harlhumut, which is basically the Fire Shaman video, and then the Nefir Accord, which is like a brief synopsis. They're meant to be kind of bite-sized, only 5 minutes, 6 minutes. And I'm going to try to produce these every week going forward. There are bigger, more long-formed ones I have planned, but that's probably after I get 20 or 30 of these things out. So, yeah, probably in a few months' time, or several months or so. But yeah, if you could kindly check this out and see if it's up your alley and interest. Our music is also put here as well for our setting. So if you like our music and songs and stuff like that, you can check it out here. Battle Damage Audio. But yeah, if not, no big deal. No worries. Just a little bit of a plug. Plague missed most of the stream. It happens. There's always the VOD little Plakester. See, Plakester
little Brazilian boy.
Well, let's see. I think we have some fan art to go through. I think. I'm not entirely sure. To be blunt, to be brutal.
I think you've shown the Palu art already.
We could show it again. No, I haven't shown that, I don't think. And fan art LOT.
In the Lich and Fish one in LOT.
Oh, yep, we've got new stuff. All right, so good thing it's scrolled down, because the artwork up there is Aya being groped and grappled by tentacles. So yeah, that's very lewd, very sexual. But here we have a character, a custom character, the first, or no, actually, yeah, no, I think it's the first custom character for Terrestrial War. The Terrestrial War tabletop team is a public tabletop team to play our setting. You can join it. There's meetings every Sunday. There's one being conducted this morning. So if you wanted to join it, you could have. I don't know if it's still going. I think it's over now. But, yeah. This is for Zephyr. Zephyr ordered a custom character. This is a priestess of the Astrian Empire. She is of the northern Astrian culture group. You can kind of tell because of the fact that she's wearing a long and heavy sort of coat or heavier clothing. Most Astrians are lightly garbed in the south, so southerners and northerners are easily distinguishable. Custom characters are incredibly expensive, but we do offer the production and creation of custom characters. So to fit with the lore or not fit with the lore. This one was made to be slightly actually fitting with the lore, so it's as close as it could be to lore accurate. Sorta, kinda, little bit. Except for that staff. That staff is not kosher. They don't use spear blade things, glaives. That's just goofy. That's just goofy. Either way. Lastly, the next bit of fan art we have to go through is in the fan art Bickering bunch. And it is... No, I'm not going to risk it, Jano. Not going to risk it. Nope.
Well, his is technically safe. The one right above it is not.
I'm not going to run the risk. You can see it if you want. It's in there, but I'm not going to risk it. Glorious Sir Chatfish. So yes, this is easy for Zendetta's Chatfish carrying his little waifu. Remember, chat, you can get your very own custom comm slot for 200 schmuckers of your own Chatfish being heroic. It's true. Look it, you could be the Chatfish of your dreams. Oh, that's true. Mythical Fool also commissioned one from Show for 200 schmucks. We have Aerith, who is, for whatever reason, leashed, of all things. Uncivilized, chat. Uncivilized. She's going after the owl. All right. We have Celeste, a character from our game. She's looking like she's a little embarrassed. And he's got a lot of Chatfish merchandise. I'm glad he kept that. The Chatfish tie, Chatfish sucker, and a Chatfish cup. Chatfish merchandising, chat. Chatfish everywhere. Love to see it. Need more of it. We do need Chatfish panties before you know it. Hell yeah, brother. And I think we have one final piece of fan art. It was commissioned for Zephyr of his Chatfish. Fish love to cause trouble for the hospitaliers in the region. That's true. Look at that. Zephyr's Chatfish is making a getaway. Will he escape? Will he not? Only time will tell, chat. That's true. Either way, chat, that'll wrap up today's Bunchcast. Next up, we are going to be streaming Dune Awakening, which has actually been a remarkably good game, surprisingly. Genuinely didn't expect that whatsoever. So yeah, Squealy will be playing with us, and I'll have to go rescue Squealy from the worms.
The worms.
Money on whether or not Squealy gets eaten. We'll find out, won't we, chat? So just remember, chat, before I wrap up the stream, make sure you call your mom and let her know that you love her a lot, because today is Mama's Day. So be sure to do that. All right, Chatfish. We'll see you in the next stream. Have a great day.
Have a good one.